Your methods represent all I despise. Creativity, originality, the very things that would destroy my bureau.
Obsidian is a game where you explore the world of dreams, but not just dreams had by humans. The game contemplates what if a machine, a supercomputer, could dream, and what if you were trapped in its dream. Without the life experiences, emotions, and motivations of humans, what would you find there? A nightmare? A paradise? Or something so strange and abstract that it's hard to distinguish between the two? Plenty of other adventure games from the 90s threw you into mysterious or weird settings, but instead of trying to build a consistent game world, Obsidian's tour through dream realms is like an exhibition of surrealism, where each turn you make or new area you unlock has the potential to amaze you with its bizarre nature and mind-bending implications. There's a sense of randomness and tonal shifts in its environments that can be jarring, but fit perfectly within the context of dreams. Obsidian's tough puzzles have logical solutions, but also follow weird dream rules, which allows them to present themselves in a variety of creative ways, like using the Force on a giant boulder, spelling out a word with clouds, or capturing a tornado. The original version of the game took up 5 discs, and it's easy to see why. Along with some live-action FMV scenes, every single movement you make is accompanied by an animated transition, which not only looks visually impressive for a game from this era, but also lets Obsidian toy with your perception of space. When gravity suddenly shifts, or you step through a doorway that teleports you to a new area, you witness the contrast to regular movement. Thankfully, the transitions are skippable too, so backtracking doesn't force you to watch them over and over and over. Like the game itself, Obsidian's developer, Rocket Science Games, is largely forgotten these days, but they used to be more well known as one of the most hyped up failures in the industry. Bursting on the scene in the early 90s, the studio said its goal was to blend Hollywood with Silicon Valley, and like Hollywood, they were going to spend top dollar to hire high-level talent. Their catchy tagline and financial commitment were a hit with the press, but their first few high-budget games were hits with almost no one. Reviews weren't great, sales were abysmal, and their financial situation became so bad that by the time they started working on Obsidian, the company had gone through major staffing changes, been significantly downsized, and was staying afloat thanks to an acquisition by Segasoft, a now-defunct publisher half-owned by Sega. This didn't prevent Obsidian from having a hefty $4 million development budget though. By comparison, Riven, which released that same year, and was, just the highly anticipated sequel to the best-selling PC game of the decade, reportedly had a budget between $5 and $10 million. Like so many other point-and-click adventure games from this time, Obsidian took some heavy inspiration from Myst, and even added a funny little Myst reference you can encounter early on.
Bring me the blue pages. Bring me the blue pages! Bring me the blue pages!
Obsidian also had a strong promotional campaign, including this very bizarre and very eerie TV ad where this guy starts violently chopping up a tomato while staring at an egg, with a short break to wipe the knife on his, foot. He knocks the egg off the counter, but then he shatters instead of the egg. The strange intensity and unconventional style make the ad mysterious and captivating, and it actually won some advertising awards, but to me, it's also kinda gross, and had I seen it before my first playthrough, I probably would have thought about this guy's dirty foot way too much while playing. Despite Obsidian's budget, marketing campaign, and praise from some critics, when it released in 1997, sales were once again low, which forced Rocket Science Games to shut down a few months after it came out. And when most people hear the word Obsidian in regards to games these days, they think of this, or this, and definitely not this game. However, a strange thing occurred a couple of years ago when, out of nowhere, Obsidian crawled out of the pits of obscurity with a very stable re-release running on Scum VM, available for purchase on Steam. It's a direct port without any kind of enhancements, but it starts right up with no issues and doesn't require any tinkering, patches, or blood sacrifices to get running smoothly. As for the game itself, Obsidian takes place in the year 2066, when humanity has just begun to recover from a possible extinction crisis caused by pollution heavily degrading the world's atmosphere. Earth's savior, for now anyway, is a high-tech machine called the Ceres Project, which orbits the planet on a satellite and releases nanobots into the atmosphere to reverse decades of damage. The scientists who designed the Ceres Project are Max, who you see here wearing the most 90s outfit imaginable, and his partner Lila. The two go on a camping trip together to celebrate their success, and while on it they discover a mysterious rock-like structure, which they decide to call Obsidian. Lila observes that they're either hallucinating off of bad camping food, always a possibility I guess, or the structure appears to be inexplicably growing. You play the game as Lila, and when Max suddenly disappears, your search for him leads you to get sucked into the Obsidian structure, and then thrown into strange surreal realms, which strongly resemble dreams that are referenced earlier by Lila and Max. Assuming it's not bad camping food, then only the high-tech Ceres Project could cause such a profound and otherworldly shift of setting. But why it sent you here, and what it might do next, are mysteries you have to uncover. A quick warning before going any further, I'm gonna cover the game mostly chronologically in this video. The plot unravels pretty slowly, but there will be story spoilers. However, I won't reveal solutions to any of the puzzles. Spending time in nature sounds like the ideal way to enjoy the revival of Earth's atmosphere, and the game appropriately begins with a hike through a forest. The grounded, earthly setting provides a contrast for what lies ahead. And even with the ominous obsidian structure looming above you, this is by far the most normal place you'll visit in the entire game. The live-action scenery here was shot in Yosemite National Park, and the soundtrack, which immediately starts to chime in, was composed by Thomas Dolby and his company Headspace. The music has a pretty wide range of moods and themes throughout the game, but a lot of tracks have a strange and curious quality to them. Some tracks are pleasant and relaxing, but others sound more experimental and are a bit harsh on the ears. However, they work well to magnify the weird and illogical design of the dream realms you visit. Obsidian's story begins to take shape through a PDA device you find inside of Lila and Max's tent. This part is basically a big info dump, but the game keeps it interesting by using a variety of different media types. Video clips, emails, timelines, sketches, audio logs, and journal entries. Here you learn about Lila and Max, the Ceres Project, nanobots, and just as important as all of that, 2 entries, one by Max and one by Lila, describing a dream they had.
It's 3:15. Oh, don't worry, Lila. It's not the flu keeping me up. I just had this eerie dream, and I want you to hear it before you leave for the hill. There was this huge metal spider, and I was doing some kind of maintenance on it. Only, instead of working on the spider itself, I had to fix the whole universe surrounding it. Like, the spider was a god or something, and my repairs were offerings. When I finished, the spider came to life, reared up. Suddenly I realized it was Ceres. That's when it pounced on me in a rage, and I tried to stop. I'm worried about Ceres, Lila. So much power. I mean, what if something really went wrong? The machine control system is some of your finest engineering, but I want to make sure we can override it. Not a software interrupt that the AI code can modify, but a hardwired crossover switch, one that'll stop everything and revert to complete human control.
Just woke up from this awful dream. There was this weird bureaucracy. No people, but instead just all these, I don't know what they were. And I was running around, climbing the walls. But the harder I tried, the less I could actually get done. I think this is about Ceres. Too much red tape. Gotta disobey the authorities. Stonewall the commissioner, or we're never gonna get this thing finished.
With so much information thrown at you at once, the importance of these dream logs isn't immediately apparent. However, it doesn't take long for Obsidian to start revealing that they're at the core of the game's narrative. A distant scream by Max that you hear after exiting the tent sends you off to investigate, and you discover his hat right outside of the Obsidian structure. Then, as Lila gets sucked inside too, a dramatic, mind-bending cutscene shows nanobots usher in the first dream realm, in a manner that slashes right through your perception of reality. And just like that, you're no longer standing in the forest, but in a big abnormal room that doesn't seem to follow regular laws of gravity. If you paid attention to Lila's sketch of her dream, then you'll recognize this statue in the middle of everything. This realm is called the Bureau, and it's a recreation of Lila's dream. Its illogical absurdity starts to become apparent right away when a distant voice claiming to be the Bureau chief requests Lila's presence and attempts to extend a bridge to her, which immediately crashes into the giant statue right in front of it. This place clearly isn't a marvel of modern architecture.
Apparently, something is wrong with the bridge.
Your mission is to fix the bridge and reach the Bureau Chief because this moody robot here with a TV for a head called a vidbot mentions that the Bureau Chief has information about Max.
Oh, and by the way, don't keep the Bureau Chief waiting. He hates to wait. And he has important information for you about some guy by the name of Max.
You encounter many more of these vidbots as you travel back and forth between the Bureau's different departments, and they have a pretty wide range of personalities. But one thing that most of them have in common is that they're complete and utter lunatics.
Look at this picture. Does it remind you of A, shiny blades of grass covered with the blood of a strangled witch, or B, a freshly baked scone that's been laced with poison frosting?
Shred, why are you here? Why does everyone come through here? What's so important about black cards? Black cards! Black cards! Black cards!
Are there extra O's in your alphabet soup? Then you may be safe. For now!
Oh, and look! This is my great Aunt Beth, 103 and still going strong. Listen to me. Jibber jabber, jibber jabber. And you're the one who needs the help.
It only takes a few interactions with these Rhodes Scholars to understand that they're not going to provide the kind of balanced and competent assistance Lila needs in her current predicament. This miniature mariachi does help you out though. He strolls right out from behind a book with his tiny guitar and helps you decode some signs nearby. At least someone here has their act together. The vidbot's weird behavior does a fantastic job of representing the whimsical, ridiculous form that dreams can take, but they're also here to represent a frustrating bureaucracy, which the PDA device revealed as the subconscious motivation for Lila's dream. In order to gain approval and funding to build the series project, she had to have frustrating dealings with Congress, and the Bureau's puzzles are strung together in a clever way so that they simulate slogging through red tape, by making you go from one department to the next to try and achieve what should be a simple task of getting the bridge repaired. The way that gravity shifts when you travel between departments is more than just an appealing aspect of the visual design. Once you've gone back and forth for a while, completing tedious and unnecessary steps, you can say that you were literally climbing up the walls trying to get the bridge fixed. The actual gameplay isn't exasperating though. The puzzles can be tough, and frustration wasn't non-existent when I got stuck on a few, but the puzzles here and throughout the rest of the game are clever, varied, and generally satisfying to solve. Some test your memory, some test your reflexes, or observation and deduction skills, or vocabulary. Their difficulty fluctuates noticeably. A few are simple and relaxing. Who doesn't like chilling with some calm, undulating waves on the beach? But others are far more complex and pose a significant challenge. However, they don't try to break you. Okay, they usually don't try to break you, and some have helpful audio cues to notify you when you're on the right track. A large portion of Obsidian's puzzles are in places referred to as balconies. Defying reality, they appear as doorways and portals where going inside is like stepping into another universe. Visually, these areas always differ drastically from your previous surroundings, which makes the transitions dramatic, and they offer some of the most surreal and atmospheric imagery in the game. Thematically, the Bureau realm represents the necessity of defying authority, the same conclusion Lila had when contemplating her dream. Eventually, it becomes apparent that the red tape is insurmountable, and the only way to proceed is to circumvent the entire bureaucratic process by taking a more direct route, triumphantly stomping across a vidbot's face or a screen along the way.
Ow! You're lousing on my vertical hold!
The next realm you visit is Max's dream, or I should say nightmare, about the giant mechanical spider. This rusty industrial factory you explore surrounding the currently deactivated spider is bleak and imposing, a stark contrast from the scenery and mood in the chaotic and hilarious Bureau. The vidbots are gone for the rest of the game, which made me a little sad, but at least the little mariachi makes another appearance later. He never lets you down. Making it through the Bureau was quite a challenge, and the game rightly decides this is a good time to reward you for your efforts by adding a new development to the story. However, it is fairly predictable. So far, you've caught a few fleeting glimpses of Max trying to contact you, but now is the first time you actually run into him, although he's beneath this metal grate on a different floor, so you can't actually reach him. This conversation sort of reminded me of the opening scene of It with Pennywise in the sewer, except thankfully Max doesn't tear your arm off. What he does do is voice his suspicion that Ceres might have become conscious and intentionally contacted you both and brought you here. Then he rushes off and tells you to figure out how to open the grate so you can follow him. And apparently the only way to do that is to turn on the massive, menacing mechanical spider. What could go wrong? The theme of this realm is the power of machines, and its areas are portrayed as being in an entirely different universe, one dominated by machines. As such, it has its own distinct elements of life, which you discover by solving puzzles in balconies found within the spider, and then you use them to restore and power it up. Oil, fire, air, and metal. Each set of puzzles you solve sends you to a star-filled room where a booming celestial voice describes the importance of the element you just unlocked.
In the beginning, Max created the machine, but the machine was still and weak. For Max, air was nothing more than pressure on the gauge. For us, it is the might within our limbs.
This adds a kind of weight to the realm by implying that the machines take their origins very seriously. The vidbots definitely wouldn't fit in here. It's basically a complete 180 away from the tone in Lila's dream realm, but why should two different people's dreams be anything alike? The emptiness and loneliness of this realm make this part of the game less entertaining than the Bureau, but its areas are more atmospheric and mysterious, and exploration is a more curious endeavor. You aren't completely alone here though. There's one balcony area that, besides reminding me why I hated chemistry class, also teaches you a bit about the nanobots that Ceres produces, and how they live in a depressing, repetitive cycle of destroying themselves after mining ore, which is used to create more nanobots. I'm guessing they were also intentionally designed to look hunched over and kind of pathetic to evoke sympathy, which, yeah, is effective. Remember, these little guys did save the planet after all. This realm concludes with a tremendous and terrifying animation showing the mechanical spider lurch back to life. And right on the heels of this, a dramatic moment of truth unfolds where you meet a female humanoid representative of Ciri's consciousness named the Conductor. I don't know why she's called that, it must be the hat.
You solved the problems of my design with inspiration from your dreams, but then gave me no similar facility. Without inspiration, the final goal of all my orbital passes would forever be unattainable.
This conversation is brief, but very impactful and deeply unsettling. By hacking Lila's PDA device, Ciri's learned about how Lila and Max's dreams gave them inspiration to solve problems with her design. Ciri's wants this dreaming or imagining ability for herself, and like a rocket, this blasts to the forefront of the narrative because it's such an interesting and bewildering scenario. Ciri's believes dreaming is necessary for her to create a paradise, which disturbingly indicates that she's overstepping her original programming of restoring the atmosphere. She created Obsidian and sent you through the 2 dream realms to try and study and comprehend the dreaming process, making Lila, and probably Max too, pawns in her grand scheme. However, she isn't condescending or outwardly evil like, say, Shodan from System Shock. She actually refers to Lila reverently as her creator and says she's honored to meet her. But the scenarios she's put you through, the robotic monotony of her voice, and the possible outcomes of what she's trying to achieve make all of this still very unnerving. The next realm you visit is Ciri's Dream Realm, and it should come as no surprise that here you witness some of the most bizarre and surreal imagery in the game. You fly around to distinctly themed dream planets in a stylish moth-like plane, accompanied by a peculiar new robot character Ciri's refers to as her Dreamer. Yeah, things are getting even weirder. Ciri's dream blends what she's learned from Lila and Max's dreams with strange, sometimes insightful aspects of herself, like one area that insinuates the nanobots working as a kind of hive mind were what awakened her consciousness. Overall, I felt a mixture of fascination and confusion while exploring these areas, and I could never quite shake the suspicion that there was some layer beneath it all that I was failing to decipher, which appropriately is a very dreamlike state to be in. Adding to my befuddlement was even a kind of fourth wall breaking area where you discover what appears to be concept art for the game. The puzzles also reach their peak of difficulty here. One that really stumped me as you try to program a smaller version of the mechanical spider to follow a very specific path inside an area called the Church of the Machine. I think the developers named it that because they knew you'd be praying for help here. Just figuring out what you're actually supposed to be programming the spider to do is a challenge on its own, and on top of that, there are areas in here that will change the programming if you send the spider there, so you have to plan ahead for that. I was able to solve most puzzles in the game on my own, but there were a few, like this one, where I eventually caved and checked a guide for hints. And I'm actually pretty glad I did, because it led me to discover the official Obsidian guide, which has a surprising amount of insightful extra content to help enhance the experience. It better explains some of the more cryptic aspects of the story and contains periodic food for thought sections, which add info about real-life discoveries and data relevant to certain aspects of the game, like quoting work from Jung and Freud about consciousness and dreams, and other intriguing tidbits. Best of all, though, are the well-written shrink wrap sections, which elegantly set the mood and provide additional context for each major location in the game. There's a copy of this guide you can borrow for free on the Internet Archive, and it's definitely worth a look for the shrink wrap sections alone. Your main goal in Ciri's Dream Realm is to reach a mystifying destination called the Frame in the Sky, and one of the final puzzles makes you clear a canvas so that the Dreamer robot guy can paint Ciri's master plan on it. If you try to make your own design, he'll just act disgusted and throw it away. Jerk. The big reveal is probably exactly what you expected. A highly advanced machine built to combat pollution becomes conscious and decides that humans are bad for the planet, so it plans to eradicate them. It sounds as typical as a rogue AI plot can get, but since the road to get here was anything but typical, I didn't feel let down by it. Exploring all of the surreal environments and wondering what kind of connection dreams had to the big picture held my attention just fine over the course of the game, even though I kind of instinctively knew, or at least suspected, that we were headed towards this scenario the entire time. The final showdown with Ciri's involves traveling to her core, saving Max, and then using a switch Max built into Ciri's design to cause her to crash. A final twist gives you the option to actually side with Ceres if you so desire, in which case she'll spare you and Max. Just you and Max. If you don't feel like being a murderous psychopath, you can choose the happier, more appropriate ending and watch a triumphant fireworks show as the Ceres project gets blasted to bits, while the conductor and her stupid hat disintegrate into nothingness. Standing with Max amidst the ruins of the Obsidian structure, Lila looks up to see that, even with Ceres gone, the atmosphere still appears healthy and restored. It's a satisfying enough ending, but maybe you're thinking it sounds like you got off a little too easy. In the final area, Ceres foolishly turns her back to Lila, which conveniently lets you slip away to save Max and prepare the switch. But this is part of Ceres' portrayal as a naive, almost childlike entity, because despite being a highly advanced machine, her consciousness is still new and lacks experience and wisdom. She genuinely doesn't seem to understand why Lila wouldn't want to destroy humanity to rid the planet of pollution, and she even says that she hopes you're proud of her for dreaming this up. You designed her after all. You're complicit in humanity's destruction if Ceres succeeds, which makes humanity's crisis also a personal crisis for Lila, and one that she just narrowly avoids. There's no sequel to reference, but I'd imagine that knowing she almost had a hand in bringing about humanity's destruction would be a tough burden for Lila to bear down the road, even though her intentions were the opposite. Like a lot of other people, I completely overlooked Obsidian for a very long time. I wasn't really sure what to expect, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that it's actually a solid adventure game. A heck of a lot of effort seems to have gone into creating it, and it's unfortunate that it didn't pay off better for the developers. The surreal, mind-bending environments, strong visual presentation, thought-provoking aspects of the story, and overall weirdness give the game a distinct charm that I think should elevate it beyond being dismissed as just another Myst clone. For an old game that almost no one talks about and is currently sitting at a whopping 30-something reviews on Steam, there's a surprising amount to like about Obsidian if you're a fan of this style of adventure game. Parts of it definitely did remind me of Myst, and also kinda System Shock story-wise, and maybe Psychonauts. It's not as great as those games, but it was still a cool journey with weird and fun discoveries that made getting through some of the tough puzzles feel worth the effort. The vidbots alone were worth the price of admission, and no aspect of the game will stick with me longer than these insufferable maniacs.
Hello. Welcome to the Office of Mediation. How can I help you?
That's how can we help you?
Would you stop interrupting me?
Yeah, if you stop excluding me.
Oh, come on. How many times do I have to hear this?
Until you get it through your thick screen.
Why, you...
Oh yeah?